Hello and welcome everyone to our RISMedia program, Winning Listings in 2026, Prospecting Strategies that Work in a Shifting Market. Thanks so much for joining us today. We have a great program for you. I'm your host, Matthew Ferrara, philosopher, speaker, and real estate industry strategist who has spent probably the last 35 years of my life helping real estate professionals and brokers like you elevate your performance through a variety of innovative and best practices from around the world. I've worked with companies and brokerages globally, and I am thrilled to be able to host today's program and help bring to you some new ideas that will empower your business. Today, we're talking to a panel that has made listings central to their growth strategy, and they'll share their insights, tech ideas, best practices, and more to help you win more listings in a shifting marketplace. And we appreciate your time, your feedback, so be sure to send any questions. You can also send them by email afterwards, and we can connect you with panelists and our sponsor as well. And don't forget to share this session with anyone who might have missed it today, and follow us for all of our future programs. So now, let's talk listings. First, I want to welcome our sponsor for this program and introduce him. Josh Harley is the founder of Fathom Holdings, and he is a visionary entrepreneur who serves as his company's chief evangelist. He established Fathom in 2010 with the vision of creating a technology-driven, service-first real estate platform. And under his leadership, Fathom has grown to a national network integrating residential, brokerage, mortgage, title, and software as a service services throughout its incredible proprietary IntelliAgent program. Josh, thanks for being with us here today.
Thank you, Matthew.
Next on our panel today is Ambre Thoreau, and she is a real estate agent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, New England Properties. Her work is defined by thoughtful guidance and strategic insights, and she has a great commitment to her clients' lifestyles. She brings her analytical expertise and heartfelt understanding to all of her transactions and really specializes in relationships and especially pet-friendly services as her niche in a competitive industry. She was actually named one of the top 5 regional winners for RISMedia's 2025 Real Estate Rookie of the Year for the Northeast. Ambre, thanks for being with us today. And our third panelist for today is Lisa Nguyen, who is currently serving as the first minority woman president of the 2026 Denver Metro Association of Realtors. She has previously served as the 2020 and 2023 president of the Asian Real Estate Association of America Greater Denver chapter and is known for working with underserved communities. She received the Diversity and Inclusion Individual Award in 2023 from Colorado Association of Realtors, and Nguyen is also a team leader of the international group at RE/MAX Properties. Lisa, thanks for being here with us as well.
Thank you.
All right, so I want to kick this off by first turning it over to our sponsor and friend, Josh Harley, who is going to tell us a little bit about more about what he's doing and how it can have an impact on our audience's ability to win listings in 2026. Josh?
Thank you. And of course, welcome everybody. As mentioned, I'm Josh Harley, founder of Fathom Realty, and we are honored to sponsor today's RISMedia Agent webinar. So we're very excited to be here. Let me start with something we all know. In this market, listings are not an accident, right? They're engineered. They're a result of consistent visibility, disciplined follow-up, professional marketing, staying in front of your community long before someone actually raises their hand to sell. The challenge is not always just in knowing what to do. The challenge is having the time, the systems, the support to actually do it consistently. That's what I see most of the time. And that's why we built Fathom Elevate. So Elevate is our concierge level growth platform for serious agents who really want to grow their listing inventory without the working 18-hour days, which, trust me, I've been there, I've done that, and it sucks. It's designed around leverage. You focus on relationships and appointments, and we help power the marketing, the lead generation, the follow-up, the transaction coordination, and the coaching you need to keep your pipeline moving forward. With Elevate, agents get a done-for-you marketing campaigns designed to generate seller conversations. Leads flow directly into your IntelliAgent CRM automatically. And from there, an inside sales team actually helps nurture and follow up with the opportunities so they don't slip away. There's structured lead routing, consistent touches, support systems working in the background every single day. So because really, here's the truth. Listings are won in the follow-up. Most agents don't lose because they lack skills. Most agents I've found, especially with our 15,000 agents, they lose because they lack the support. And so I see that as we support agents more and more, we're able to help them earn and win more listings. So Elevate gives agents that support. And remarkably, it's actually less than what most agents are paying in a traditional split model. All of that while delivering significantly more leverage. So I'm excited for today's discussion. The panel is going to share some very powerful, I believe, real world listing strategies. And my goal is that by the end, you not only know what to do, but you also see a clear path for executing it consistently.
Great. Thanks, Josh, for kicking us off. It sounds like you have a great system, and it's definitely the right way for us to frame our conversation here today. How do we create the systems, the patterns, and the support to execute on a listing strategy? We look at the data, there's so much positive data around listings and so much opportunity to be had there that this is the right panel at the right time for our audience. I want to jump in with our panelists and have them share some of that real world experience and insights. And I'm going to kick off by going over to Ambre first and just to ask you to tell us a little bit more about yourself and how listings are really central to your business strategy.
So I'm a newer agent that serves two different states. I serve Massachusetts and Connecticut, and I specialize in residential, but also lifestyle properties, as you mentioned. Real estate for me really is about those relationships and life transitions that people are going through. I found that there was a true need for helping people focus more on their next chapters of how they're going to get there with that confidence. I've really leaned into going into more listings with power for the fact that they are creating visibility and leverage in these markets. When I'm taking a listing, I'm going into marketing the property, not just putting a for sale sign in their front yard. I'm going through creating my brand strategy and my ability to guide them through the shifting market, creating that momentum and building that consistency for my clients.
Cool. That makes a lot of sense. And also, I love the idea that when you're focused on listings, you have the ripple effect of building presence, building attention. Obviously, people go online to search for listings, so you're found in listing portals. Your signs obviously show up around town. So there's a business building effect of every listing that you get. It sort of compounds itself. Let me go over to you, Lisa, and ask the same question. Tell us just a little bit more about you and why listings are central to your growth strategy.
Hello from sunny Denver, Colorado. Those aren't the real mountains in the background, but we do have mountains. That's beautiful. My name is Lisa Nguyen. I've been in the business. I just hit 20 years. And so I'm a more seasoned vet. And so I've seen the recession. I've seen the pandemic. I've seen all of the different things that have happened to the market over the course of 2 decades. And listings are central to my business or anybody's business because there's only so many buyers that you can work with before your business starts to before you start having enough time to serve your clients correctly. I have a team which is a little bit different. So we're able to do multiple listings, like multiple deals at a time. But if you are a single agent, you can only work with so many buyers while listings sit there and they sell themselves. The second part of that is while the listings are on the market, you're able to generate more buyers through open houses. You're able to generate more buyers, like you said, through your signs and the advertising that you have up. Our listing strategy is very data driven, right? So when we're going into listing appointments, we're making sure that we're providing the data on that specific zip code in terms of how long it's taken, how long the house has sat in the market. One key thing also is to make sure that you are doing a correct valuation. A lot of agents that go in, they're going in and they're trying to say whatever they can to get the listing. However, if you go in and you spend that money on all the marketing and it's not priced correctly, you won't sell the house. So oftentimes I actually love to be the second listing agent if there's a possibility. So if the first agent hasn't been able to sell it, then you go in or you have to actually be able to walk away from listings as well. Just tell them this is what we believe that it'll sell for. If we give you an unrealistic expectation, then we're just setting them up to not be able to sell their home. And so, as a professional, you need to make sure that when you're going in and valuing it, that you're also able to deliver as well, because your reputation is very important in this business. The third thing is just knowing your comparables in the subdivision that you're listing in, the city that you're listing in. There is a lot of data that's given there with AI now. You have to know your information because a lot of consumers can type things in to chat GPT or go online on Zillow, and everybody has become subject matter experts of things that they cannot do. And the third thing is just making sure to humanize it. People like working with people that they like. And so it's really important to make sure that you're also selling yourself in the listing appointment. So I always tell people I like to meet to make sure that we're a good fit, because it's like for rich or poor in this transaction till selling do we part. So it's good to be able to get along with the people that you're working with as well.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you both for some quick tips just to kick us off here. Josh, I saw you nodding too when Lisa was talking about not burning out, right? How listing strategies help keep you focused and obviously there's a limited amount of bandwidth any one of us have. So having the listing as the central part of our business is what keeps us healthy. Every seller gives us a chance to sell their home and then they become a buyer too. So we'll get the buyer at that point of the stage as opposed to burning out before then. Did you want to add something, Josh?
I would actually love to add something. So I've seen it time and time again. I did it myself. As I mentioned before I started Fathom, I actually ran a very large team. And what I've found is that I can manage, a dozen listings at a time and not lose my hair. You try to manage a dozen buyers at a time, I don't care who you are, you're not going to survive it. There's not enough time in a day to have both a family life and get the deals done and actually support your clients in a way that they deserve. And so that's where listings do bring a lot of power. And outside of lead generation, I've also never seen a team built around buyers. I've seen teams built around listings that generate buyers as leads for their teams. And so it's a very powerful strategy. If anyone asked me coming into real estate what I'd recommend, I'd say focus on listings, because that's ultimately what's going to build you a successful business.
It's a great point and good points from all. If we look at the data, you think about it, even with today's slightly elevated days on market, nationally around 75, 78 days on market, it means if you have a listing, you're going to have a closed transaction in about 2.5 months. Some buyers might move that fast, but many of your buyers may take 4, 6, 8, 16, 36 months to make a move. And that's really hard to build a revenue pipeline on that. So we can see some of the real reasons, the purpose behind making listings central to our businesses. Let me ask the panelists now. Let's talk about your most valuable sources of listings and listing appointments, and obviously maintaining a full pipeline. There's lots of ways, but there's also been a lot of research and data. But before we drop any data on the audience, let's just talk about your experience. Where are you finding right now the most effective sources of appointments and ultimately convertible listings? Lisa, I'll go to you first. What's your favorite source?
So my team, we're the international group at RE/MAX Professionals. We speak 9 different languages. That in its own is a niche. So I always like to tell people, focus whatever it is. Like Ambre likes to work with pets, you said, and animals in her bio. My team, we speak different languages. And so as we've went out and marketed, we do residential, commercial, and business sales, which is a little bit different than some teams. And people are like, oh, how do you do that many things and be good at it? I say we focus specifically on communities versus neighborhoods. So we like to service people who need maybe translation in their specific markets. And like I said, if you don't speak the language, that's just one specific thing that's been able to help us get listings. I've seen people join different college groups. I've seen them join different sporting groups and play soccer. Both of my kids play basketball. I say the number one way to get listings is through your network. I've built relationships with, bank executives through some of the boards that I've served on. And I serve on the boards because I care about my community, but actually business is generated through that. Another way to generate some business too is going to different national conferences. You'd be surprised how many referrals you actually get when you just go around, hey, I'm from Colorado, I'm from Denver. Hey, which part of that? And you become the person that they send referrals to. I do quite a bit of business just from people sending referrals from people that I meet at conferences. And so my formula is that every single day you should be going somewhere, and it should be genuine conversations. If you're having lunch with somebody, checking in with people, going to different networking events. If you're a newer agent, make sure to go to the free events that they're providing, right? Free lunch, free continuing education classes, free networking events. But make sure you're doing something because you're not going to get listings sitting at home. That's the one thing I know. So any and everything that involves your network.
There you go. Yeah, it sounds like it's clearly a networking based growth strategy for you, your sphere of influence, and then connecting with people that you have a talent or skill or an affinity for. I was also thinking, as a member of the Asian Real Estate Association, that's another great way for you to generate referrals, but also just to network with the broader public community, because ARIA is always doing things to engage the public. That just gives you some more exposure. Great stuff. Andre, let's go to you. Talk to us about what your favorite sources of getting listing appointments and convertible listings are.
So essentially staying visible with all of my sphere. Relationships is what I drive my business on. When I first started in the business 3 years ago, too, I didn't really know where I was going to start. I didn't know where my first transaction was going to come from. I didn't know that kind of checking in with my people was going to be what was the essential building my business on. I wanted to treat people that were coming into my life, that had been in my life, with the general desire to learn who they are, why they do what they do, and how I could support them in their essential life journey. I don't think that I really started targeting people in any way. I tried the cold calls and they just weren't for me. I was doing open houses with sign-in sheets and I'd have all these leads and I just wouldn't feel comfortable reaching out because it wasn't how I liked being targeted as a consumer. So most of my listings come from repeat customers, the referrals, the people who have been quietly watching me online for months because I show up online, I educate with funny, I educate with important information, real conversations, real situations that have occurred. I share the stories. I let them know what I need from them and how I can help them and how I'm different. And I think really building that brand has helped me branch out. We talk about how I did really was a big part of my life of having horses. I live on a small farm right now. Linking that with a lot of my business too that I've gotten throughout the years is I show horses competitively. People that I've shown with are reaching out because they have land for sale. They have a cousin that is going to be in the area that wants to relocate. They have all these different connections too because the network is nationwide. So going through that and making those connections and something that I'm truly comfortable in is also something that has boosted my sources of naturally getting listings just by doing things that show who you are, that they trust you more. And I think that's been a big thing of why I stay visible and why I share a ton of my life. And, I started out too with having private profiles and having only a business page. And I've started to kind of consolidate, and people want to see me walking my dogs. They want to relate to me and say, I have Goldens too. Like, let's find my Goldens a backyard. And so that's really something I've leaned into because people love sharing their stories and they want someone that listens and cares. So that's essentially what I've done.
Yeah, it makes great sense. I think it's just a variation of the networking Lisa was describing. Extend your network, show up also online. And then I love this concept of connecting it to something that you're passionate about, something that fuels you up so that, in a sense, prospecting for listings doesn't feel any different than just enjoying your passions, your hobbies, commitments, and communities that you want to be around. So both great tips for us there. Let me go to the next question here for a second, because I think it quickly relates to this. So let's say that our viewers take your advice. They make listings more central to their growth plans. They get more engaged in direct, face-to-face and online presence to build their network, to generate those leads. They're going to start talking to more potential sellers. Let's talk about both the opportunities and some of the challenges over the last year and the sort of shifts that are happening in consumer trends and the marketplace in general. What kinds of opportunities to pick up new listings, as well as maybe some headwinds, are either of you seeing in the marketplace right now? Ambre, let's start with you.
So I think a big piece of what you just kind of went through again is that we're controlling our inventory and we're being proactive instead of reactive when we are going after these listings and being able to generate those opportunities for ourselves. We are creating that additional value by able of marketing, creating the narrative, the time, and the connection that we're making with our clients. I think in today's market, sellers need that strategy, not just the exposure too. They like knowing the psychology behind where we're coming up with the numbers, the preparation that goes into those meetings, that we're sitting down with them, going through their homes and asking them too, what do you love about your home? How can we position this to meet different criterias of buyers so that we can see where the real value is? I think the opportunities really do lie in the sellers as well, of being the realistic value that we are bringing, rather than the previous years of just listing the home, putting the sign in the yard, and praying that it went real quick because there was so many people in the market. I think many that waited during that time are now ready to move because life didn't pause. It continued. It continued to change. They continued to grow their family, want to relocate, build a better business. And I think that's our new opportunities that we're starting to see. But I think the challenges that are really starting to become more headline news for a lot of people is the sensitivity of our markets. I think that we're not in the market we previously were in, especially in my area of the country. Overpricing is a big red flag right out of the gate. And we're starting to see those houses sit on the market. And, we don't know what those sellers' challenges are being an outside agent when we are going to bring a buyer through that listing. But I think sometimes that is a strategy that essentially we don't have ultimate control over when someone is in a tough situation where they have previously purchased and now they have to sell because life's changed. So I think it really is requiring more education for sellers and stronger communication throughout the process from us on what our strategy is, what the marketing is, and what you're getting when you're working with us.
It makes sense. I can see how, in some ways, the shifts in the market give us more opportunities to be valuable to sellers and educate them further and make sure they understand that it's not the market that they might have been watching 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. But as you say, at the same time, not everyone is getting that message. And so as a result, we have to help sellers not harm themselves by, as you say, as you point out, overpricing or having expectations for the speed or the pace at which transactions happen today. Lisa, how about over in Denver? Tell me a little bit about what opportunities and in headwinds you might be seeing in the listing game today.
So over here, we're in a different type of market here in Colorado, where our contracts are controlled by the Department of Real Estate versus the state, right? So that in its own, one thing that and I'm going real high up here, just being the president of our association, and looking at everything from like a 50,000-foot point of view, is a lot of the legislation is changing and a lot of the rules around real estate are changing. And I know that it's different from state to state, but because the legislation is changing, it's also forcing us to reshift the way that we're doing business. I'm beginning to see more and more foreclosures. I haven't seen a short sale since 2008, but I'm starting to see short sales again. Another thing that is to pay attention to is there's a huge shift in the money, where the money is being transferred, right? There's a lot of people that have passed away since COVID. I don't know what it is that's going on. There is quite a bit of deaths. And so, if you want to be an excellent listing expert, right, knowing your legislation, they're putting bills in place that could possibly, like, we just shut down one here at vacancy tax law. A lot of jurisdictions are rezoning. A couple of other things that I noticed that are really big issues in areas of opportunity was the fact that there's been so many catastrophes, natural catastrophes, which have caused insurance prices to go up. So when you're going in and you are trying to get the listing, educating the sellers on the current state of the market. Not only do buyers have areas of opportunity with the interest rates, insurance costs have double, tripled in a bunch of areas. In Colorado, we have a lot of different mountain regions where insurance companies won't even insure certain properties, right? So making sure that your sellers have the proper insurance, making sure that you are pulling deeds and checking everything prior to listing their homes. I'm finding more and more that somebody's passed away in the deed, right? And so people are going to sell properties not realizing that they need the proper power of attorneys, the proper paperwork before even listing, and seeing who's on the deed and making sure that those things are taken out, that the seller is not currently in probate. I'm talking about very, very specific things, that these are some things that I'm seeing happen a lot more. And then AI obviously is shaking up everything in our industry. They're trying to push us out as agents, and finding a more efficient, cheaper way to do things. But really, there's no way to pull the agent out of the transaction. We are the ones negotiating inspection objections, so when you're going in and trying to sell your value in the listings too, letting them know that as your representative of selling the property, you're also going to go to bat with them, because a lot of buyers now, it has shifted to a buyer's market. And so they are gouging these sellers and asking them for everything under the sun: roofs, radon mitigation systems. That's something in Colorado that we see here. We have a lot of expansive soils, and so there's a lot of natural gas that can come out of the ground. And so we do radon mitigation tests. So buyers are asking for pretty much, it's been a long time since I've seen lists that are 20, 30 inspection items long. So being able to just sell your value, knowing the legislation, knowing what you need to do to get the property sold, and then also educating the sellers on all the barriers that the buyers are facing.
So it sounds like, this is really a big shift in a way. A lot of the details have to be paid attention to sooner rather than later in this market, as opposed to a hyper hot market where there might have been maybe a lot of bids. And if a buyer was asking for a lot of concessions, we could have gone to number 2, number 3, number 10, number 12 if we needed to move the property. So a lot more work in the details of getting listings done, but also a lot of opportunity there. I'm thinking back to what Amber was saying in terms of adding value, coming in and saying, this is a lot more complicated than you might have thought. And in a market where the shift of the balance between the seller and the buyer has perhaps has maybe become a little more even than in the past, we've got to approach this differently. I want to talk, because Lisa, you introduced this, you brought up AI for us. I want to talk systems and tools. Obviously, technology is a system and tool, but there are lots of effective and important systems and tools in helping to not only source listing appointments, but serve the listing and get it to closing. What are some of your favorite systems and tools? That could be technologies, that could be processes, they could be a marketing technique that you like. Just a couple of quick hits for our audience and things to maybe put on their radar to think about, okay, I might need to up the ante on my platform, on my tools, and my approach to be able to effectively take more listings and then obviously close more listings in the year ahead. Lisa, kick us off with a couple more of your favorite systems and tools.
Awesome. So when I'm thinking about my specific pool of buyers, sellers, things like that, I use the analogy of a spider web, right? Because I try to, let's go back down to when I was a new agent and you're working, can't get a listing, can't get a buyer, can't sell anything. I tell agents and newer agents that I'm coaching that it's like a spider web. You talk to one person, it's like a web, right? It's a numbers game in this business. You talk to maybe 20 people, you might get one deal. You talk to 40 people, you might get 2 deals. You talk to 5, you probably are going to get none. And so thinking of it as numbers, some of the tools that I like to use, I have a toolkit CMA. So the comparative market analysis, it doesn't matter what tool you're using. I use specifically toolkit CMA, but just find a system where you can do valuations and do them quickly. Because a lot of people sometimes call you and you have to put a whole entire packet together by the next day when you go meet with them. I also like virtual tours, because everything is done online now with AI, making sure that people could view the house properly without you even having to show it. And technology has gotten so crazy to the point where they can even have you singing country songs or whatever it is in the specific listing. Um, and I am still really, really old school. This is from going back 20 years, but every single system that I've put my database into for my sphere has always, like, let's say things change over the years and somebody comes out with the newest type of a system. I keep everything in an old school Excel spreadsheet as well. And so as we're going into the new systems, I have that Excel spreadsheet that lists who my pipeline is. So as we're thinking about the spider web, there could be people you're talking to and they might not be ready for a couple of years. Some people were ready next month. Some people are ready 6 months down the road. But that's how I keep track of the leads that I have, is through that old school spreadsheet, right? I always think about agents too that don't have a lot of money to invest. Maybe they're not with bigger companies. And so having a really excellent Excel spreadsheet, taking a template from somebody else that's already created your A, B's, and C's. So people that are ready now, people that may be ready later, and then people that may be ready in the future have been helpful as well. And then also I'm trying to think of any other tools that I use. Um, a good CMA system, and then also, what is it? Just having my old school spreadsheet still. So as we're going into those new systems, you can just give them and port them in usually, but it
Sure.
always reverts back to where that sphere is. And one magic nugget that every agent should know is you should know how many number of people are in your sphere. If you are truly looking at your sphere every single day, there should be a magic number and you should know that number. Otherwise, it shows that you aren't really going in every single day and looking at your network.
Right. Well, it's good advice to pay attention to the compound effect that systems bring to you. They bring you the consistency. They bring you the ability to stay organized and put your finger on it. In fact, if we even think downstream, they bring you the ability to have your business packaged and ready to go when you're ready for your next adventure and you want to turn it over to a team or an assistant or to another agent who wants to buy that book of business. And it might be some simple spreadsheets, and it might be AI having you show up in virtual presentations to save time. That combination of systems is pretty powerful. How about for you, Ambre? What kinds of systems, processes, technologies are really helping you maintain a full listing pipeline?
So, being a newer agent and just getting into this just under 3 years, I started out really quick and hitting the ground running. So, I didn't have the processes that worked for me in place at that time. Essentially, this year is a year of growth for me where I essentially threw out all my old processes and really streamlined what it looks like to set up a buyer, to set up a seller, and how to focus on giving them those nuggets that they need as we're getting to the process, and what saves me time for the meeting with them. What can I drop with them? What can I provide to them prior that shows my value so that they're already falling in love with what my strategy is before they meet me? How can I have people learn who I am without the face-to-face contact as our first meeting point? So a lot of that has come through templates for me and having things ready to go. As I've gone through listings in this past 2 years too, templates that I've used that work are great. They're now in a folder. I now have brochures that are ready to go that I can make unique for each process. I can do it too, where I'm making a website for a unique property that needs that extra edge. I think essentially making everything of ease for myself, but unique for every single address is what makes the big change of being able to support that growth and have those tools. I also started not having a CRM. I have that as my challenge this year because I am a sticky note kind of person. I am a Excel sheet kind of person. I like being able to move the data around. And so now trying to get into a CRM because I do have past sales that I want to keep in touch with, but I also want it to still be me. I don't want to set up drip campaigns. I don't want to have those cold touches. So I think creating tools and systems that are going to support that growth that are unique to me is what's going to continue to build a sustainable pipeline for listings. Because once you start having essentially those clients that you've closed before, more than likely they're going to be buying and selling again and telling their friends how you made them feel cared for, but how you also were prepared and had all of this ready to go for their listing prior to that active date, and how you made it a collaborative process with them.
I think our viewers will really appreciate that advice with respect to not having to reinvent the wheel every time, right? I think both of you talked about sort of having systems, templates ready to go, a repeatable process. It can be customized, it can be tailored, but you're not inventing, you're not starting from scratch each time. That's really critical. And then I think in both cases, and Ambre, you really emphasize this, along the lines of ensuring that even with the technology, whether it's new school, old school, you are keeping the high touch component to it. That the technology positions you to be the person doing the relationship nurturing, doing the follow-up, staying in personal contact. So the technology automates the work, but it positions you to be the element that they stay connected to and want to refer, want to work with again. And I think that's also quite important. And when we look at the landscape of listings these days, buyers are telling us that they plan to live in their houses longer than ever before, 10, 12, maybe up to 15 years. And that means nurturing that business over a longer period of time, not only if we want to get the repeat business, but if we want to get the referrals along the way. And that's kind of a good thing because we just have a much longer referral cycle with some of our clients. I want to ask a simple question now here. Maybe we can get a couple more quick pointers for our audience. Give us a piece of advice as our audience is thinking, okay, I understand the importance. I understand the business advantages. I see some of the headwinds that are out there, and there are some tools that can help me. What would be your most encouraging piece of advice to our audience in terms of making listings central and maybe trying to prioritize them above other forms of business and then and win those listings in the year ahead? Ambre, start off this part of the conversation.
So, as we've learned more about me, I do not chase anything. I want a genuine connection, and I want to prioritize myself as that person that's going to be trusted and is genuine and has your true goals in mind. So essentially what I'm doing more is educating more than providing a pitch when I'm meeting with people. I'm talking to people about strategy, and I'm doing it publicly, and I'm sharing with other agents, because I think the more that we strengthen each other, the more our business continues to grow, because essentially my client is not going to be the same person's client, because I think everyone is meant for who they're meant for. And I think we make those connections by building those relationships before you even need them. And that treating all these conversations like they matter, because they do, and learning about what makes people tick and what their dream life is and how we can achieve that, and creating the strategies behind that, I think is what makes people trust you more before they even are ready to have those conversations, because it becomes more natural and it's not forced. It's a simple way of just treating people how you want to be treated and moving forward of having a good business that you're proud of.
Amber, you bring up the point that there's a sort of like human element to this business, right? You're going to become long-term connected to your seller clients. This is really about building relationships, not just doing transactions in that case. I just want to follow up with something that you said here. You're doing a lot of really good education. And that is of a huge value to consumers when they're dreaming, but also after the fact as well. What kind of education are you finding sellers are happy to be, most engaged with, happy to be receiving from you over a very long term, especially during that period in between their transactions with you? What kind of topics are really critical to them?
So I think a big thing that has been happening, especially since the COVID market, is that a lot of assessments are changing. A lot of towns are behind. I think I have been noticing a lot more. I've been getting more conversations that are starting about what their assessed value is on their home. What is their home currently valued at? And I've had a few phone calls last week where one town close to me just redid their assessment and someone's home went up $100,000 in value. And they've done nothing to it, but that street has had major, major sales in the last year. 6 homes have sold on that street. They're all renovated, they're all move-in ready. And his home was a farmhouse that only has a pellet stove and has the buildings that need to be brought into this century. And, it just really was one of those situations that kind of opens your eyes of what value can I bring to them? Because sometimes those values don't line up for them. And so being able to keep in touch and have that essential conversation with them of this is why you're seeing this change and this is how the town's viewing it and what's that mean for you, because you can always have that conversation with the town too, but are you getting through with it? Are you having them come walk through your house? What's that look like? And then are you sitting with that tax bill or do you want to relocate and
Right.
get into
Right.
that?
And giving them options, right? Like I love how you are helping us remember that there's context to our seller business, right? Like something happened in the town and that gave you a reason to reach out. That gave you a reason to have a meeting. That gave you a reason to say there are options for you at this point. Like you said, do you want to sit on that tax bill or do you perhaps want to relocate and take advantage of this timing in the marketplace? I think we often think that prospecting for listings is just a sort of lather, rinse, and repeat basic, are you interested in moving? But we can use things that are going on around us to create moments to be of value, whether or not it leads to an immediate deal. We're continuously adding value to the relationships. So when they are ready, you are top of mind, as you pointed out. Let me go to Lisa for a second here. Lisa, what kind of advice would you give our audience in terms of prioritizing listings, looking for unique opportunities out there, and being of value to these long-term relationships that are going to keep bringing opportunity to our businesses?
So this is just specifically for this point in time, but I noticed that a lot of people have mental health issues, right? Because I'm going online, I'm seeing agents, I can't get one single deal, I'm having to work a second job. So doing whatever it is that you need to do to protect your mental health. One thing that I learned is, we always talk about, appointment blocking, and this is just me. Like, I'm a single mom. I have 3 kids. I have one in elementary, middle, and high school. And this is a real thing. People are working. There's moms out there, parents that are trying to juggle their lives. They're trying to balance every single thing. Um, but that's so important. Like, I call it energy blocking and doing the most amount of work when you have the most amount of energy. And so when you're waking up, you're going through your sphere, you're trying to see who could potentially, you can get a listing from, what buyers you can work with, and then going and doing those specific activities when you have the most energy. I'm a person that works really well in the morning. Some people work really well at night, but I've realized that most of my energy is when I wake up from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. So I probably get, the most work done during that time. And by the end of the day, I just crash and burn. There are people I know that stay up really late and they get most of their work done at that. Another thing is just to pay attention to how you're representing yourself on social media, right? It's kind of like, I don't know, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. But in the 48 laws of power, they tell you that it's better to be known than not known at all, right? So with that said, as you're going in and posting stories, I'm seeing a lot of people really push the needle with some of the things that they're doing. They're finding this niche, but sometimes you got to see if it's going to be borderline, if it's going to be professional or not professional. People follow your stories. They look on your social media before they're hiring you. Just making sure that your clients know too, that you're not too busy for them. I have that problem. Sometimes I'm out in legislation, I'm in meetings, I'm doing panels, but genuinely, I am always working on my business too. So I do like to show them like, hey, I'm working on this listing appointment. I'm showing this house. I'm doing that. And over time, I've been able to get a lot of followers. So number one, making sure you are waking up every day, protecting your mental health, your energy blocking, and then you're also consistent. You have to be consistent. This is even after 20 years, You have to wake up every day like you have to pay the rent and you have to go hunt for this business. You get it. And that's the biggest mistake I see agents make is they get super excited because they close something big. And then they go and they don't continue to do those activities because they had one specific good year and they think they're on top of the world, but they weren't filling up their pipeline during the year. So the formula that I use is if you take one day off, you're behind 4 days. If you take a week off, you're behind 4 weeks. You decide to go on vacation for a month, multiply that by 4. That's the formula I always give myself in my head is that times 4. Whatever you do, it's going to be times 4. And then also online when I'm going and doing post, it's 1 to 4. So I do 4 business posts. And when I start to see that people are probably getting annoyed with only all real estate stuff, I'll post up my kids or their basketball or something like that. So the 1 to 4 formula with posting online as well. Business, 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 personal. Business, business, business.
Right.
Animal, not your animal. Business, 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 your kids' activity.
Makes a lot of sense. Before I ask each of you ladies to give us one line and one piece of advice, closing advice for our audience, I want to go to Josh because I saw him nodding there for a moment. I see the wheels turning about some of this advice. Jump in with some thoughts, Josh. Then we'll wrap up with our panelists and then come back to you.
There's one thing that Lisa said that I think I really want to drive home, really important, and I want to make sure no one misses this. What I see a lot is you see this roller coaster business. And what happens ultimately is they do a lot of activity and they get some deals coming in and they focus all their time and energy on those deals. And then what happens, they're no longer focusing on their marketing.
Right.
Deals close and there's nothing left in their pipeline. So then they become desperate. They start, getting busy again. They start doing the marketing. They start, getting out there, beating the street, and they get deals again. And just constantly this ebb and flow of activity and then nothing, and then activity and then nothing. And it comes down to that consistency. Even when you're busy, you're not too busy to be marketing. You have to carve out, like I have to time block. You have to carve out time every single day to be working your sphere, to be marketing, to be posting, to be doing whatever it is you can to be able to generate that next deal into your pipeline. And that simple activity consistency could easily double your business. Just that one little difference could double your business for the year. And that's just
Yeah, and I think our panelists have absolutely emphasized that too throughout the conversation, right? Consistently showing up in person, consistently showing up. But as you say, Josh, making sure that that's happening not in these ebb and flow patterns, but along every single, it's sort of like the foundation to your day-to-day business so that you can have a sustainable pipeline. And of course, listings are a great way to avoid those fluctuations. Okay, let's go back to our guests here, Lisa and Ambre. Lisa, I'm going to ask you, give us like a quick summary of your excitement or thoughts around winning listings in 2026 and how our audience should take that to heart.
Winning listings in 2026, I always tell my team 1% better every day. There's a term in Japanese, it's called kaizen. It's just 1% better every day. So before we would sit there and manifest all these things we want, but this year we've gone around in a circle and then I ask them, what's that thing that you want to do that you haven't done, that you haven't started yet, and how are you going to do it? And so I hate reading books, for example. And so every single day I read 5 pages now just to force myself. I got through a couple of books, actually, even though I hate reading. I hate exercising. I do 20 squats a day now just because, and that's my 1%. And it could be 1% of anything, but little things eventually become big things. But if you do nothing, then expect nothing. But even if you can't do a lot because of whatever situation you're in, do a little bit every single day. And those things will eventually become big things like listings and more buyers and more sellers in this market.
Great advice. 1% every single day. It's funny, we work in a business where compound interest, where compound, equity building in our houses turns into great wealth over time, but it also works for us as individuals as well. Great advice, Lisa Nguyen. Thanks for being on our panel here today. Ambre, tell us your excitement, your one piece of summary advice for winning listings in 2026.
So my one thing that I've really keyed in on is the relationships and being purposeful in my messages to my clients. I think that going into that approach, it's providing the clarity of my why, but also getting my clients' why. And when we feel that we're building this goal and this strategy together, it's really creating essentially that relationship that's protecting both the client and protecting my peace of mind that once we are listed active on that market, we all know the timeline. We know what the feedback's going to be. We know the adjustments that could come. We know the negotiation strategy. We know what's going to be happening because we set that tone early on. And I think they know that they are going to be getting me. I'm not handing them off. They're going to get me on the phone call. They might hear the horses in the background or the dogs on the squeaky toys, but we all get to know each other for who we really are. And I think that is what everyone is looking for now. They're not looking for the sales pitch. They're looking to work with you because of who you are.
Nice. Great to always keep that in the center of our business strategy, is that we're not just trying to do deals, we're trying to make a difference with people who matter to us. So awesome advice. I'm Braithwaite. Thanks so much for being with us here today. Josh, I want to turn it over to you for a few minutes and get your reflections, and also have you talk to us a little bit about your new platform that would be, I think, a perfect dovetail to some of the things our panelists discussed today.
Thank you, Matthew. One thing I do want to go back and drive home, and I know they've done it so much, and I want to just, you can't emphasize this enough, and that's relationships. It really is key. One of the things that I try to teach my agents as I'm coaching them is that when you're going into that listing appointment, your focus right then and there should be building a relationship even before you're trying to win that listing, because building a relationship is probably what will win you that listing. What it'll also do is it'll win you future referral business. It'll win you the buy side of that deal. It'll win you, right? So it's really, the relationships are really important, really key. And using that as you go into their home, you get to be part of their life, right? So you get to see their pictures. You can see, oh, their daughter's part of a select soccer team. My son is too. How long? So you find ways to connect as you do that. Just really make it genuine. And genuine, I think, is very important as well, because people can see through if you're being fake, right? So again, relationships are key. I will say right now that it's easy to generate buyer leads online. It's the holy grail to generate listing leads. It's just, right now, it's still all about relationships. There is no easy magic button right now for listings. There just isn't. If someone figures that out, they're going to have a gold mine on their hands. And so it really does come down to relationships, I think, is really key. And I think everyone here today they listened closely. You heard the same things over and over, right? You heard the relationships, the visibility, the follow-up, the systems, and really, as Lisa put it, consistency. And I love the term Kaizen. She's exactly right. It's always looking to improve yourself in your business, because it is going to help you as you go. The agents who dominate listings, they're not dabbling. I mean, Ombre's not dabbling. Lisa's not dabbling. They've built systems and they built a business around listings. They're structured, they're disciplined, and they're supported. And that's exactly why Elevate exists. So Elevate was built to remove the friction that slows agents down and kills that momentum that we see. I think Lisa actually pointed out today as well, like that the time sucks that get in your way. And so how do you avoid the things that kill the momentum? So marketing is running whether you feel busy or not. Leads are being generated and routed automatically. An ISA team to help nurture opportunities. Transactions in our systems are coordinated for you so that you're not buried in paperwork, so you can focus on the prospecting and the relationships. And of course, coaching to keep you accountable to the activities that actually create those listings that we've been talking about. So Elevate is a concierge level support designed to help you build a predictable listing pipeline. That's a mouthful, but instead of living transaction to transaction, we want to do it for you. All right, we want to help be that support structure behind you. And Elevate, look, we believe in servant leadership. You hear a lot of people talk about it. We live it. We believe the brokerage should exist to serve the agents, not the other way around. When agents are truly supported, they feel loved, right, they're going to do a better job at serving their clients. And so when they serve the clients better, they're going to win more listings and they're going to build a stronger business. It is what it is. And so it's just tried and true. It's been around forever, and there's no getting away from that. And so if today's discussion, I think, made you think, I need more structure, I need more leverage, I need more consistency, I need more Kaizen, then I encourage you to explore Elevate and see for yourself what's included, see how it works, and see if it's a fit for the season of growth you're stepping into. We'd definitely be honored to support you. So thank you again for investing your time in learning the skills you need to build a business you want. And Matthew, I'm going to give it right back to you. It's all yours.
All right. Thank you very much, Josh. Appreciate that. And Elevate sounds like it definitely has all the features that someone would need to implement both what Lisa and Ambre shared with us today in order to grow that listing based business and create both good wins for our business, but good wins for our life and our clients as well. Well, I want to thank everyone for watching. First of all, thank you for investing in you. In this business, it is critical to continue to invest in ourselves. We are the competitive advantage that we bring to the table for our clients, for our personal businesses, and for the organizations that we're part of. And so spending time with us on a webinar like this is a great way to both build yourself up and differentiate yourself in the marketplace. I also want to thank our guests, Lisa Nguyen, Ambre Thoreau, who definitely brought some great ideas and some opportunities for us to perhaps do things a little differently or just turn up the volume maybe 1% on our opportunity to go forward. And of course, our sponsor, Josh Harley of Fathom, thank you so much for making this possible in conjunction with RIS Media's ongoing efforts to raise the bar in our industry. So thank you. We hope you've enjoyed it. Please make sure you subscribe, watch, share this for sure, and be on our next session. I'm your host, Matthew Ferrara, and this has been RIS Media's Winning Listings in 2026, Prospecting Strategies That Work. Let's go get some listings. Have a great day, everyone.